Welcome to the show. I'm Jonathan, and today we ask the question, why don't we go to the moon anymore? July 21st, 1969, December 7th, 1972. Those were the first and last missions to the moon. 50 years have gone by, and we haven't stepped foot on the lunar surface. But why is that? Why haven't we returned to something so close? But we have big goals to getting to Mars. Now, for many of you, you probably find this interesting and have an open mind why this is the case. For others, the ones that comment on these videos with things like, if space is real, then why haven't we gone back to the moon? They say they can't replicate the technology. Well, while this video will answer everyone's concerns, some of you will still leave some ridiculous comments, and that's fine. This video is not for you. I mean, most of what I make is not for you. Earth's not flat, space is real, and dinosaurs are real. The simple answer for not returning to the moon is money. And some of you may have already guessed that. But if money is an issue, how can we afford to send things to Mars? Well, there is a limited budget across all of the many divisions and projects at NASA. We just got the James Webb Space Telescope up, which, was expensive, and sent a probe to the sun. We have loads of people trying to get funding within different areas of NASA, but spending that limited budget to go somewhere we have already been seems a bit silly. The moon is wonderful, and while we could learn a lot with today's technology, it just isn't as beneficial as solar probes and Mars rovers. So what exactly is that budget? Well, in 2019, the budget for NASA was $21.5 billion. And the Trump administration asked Congress to actually boost that to 22.6 in 2020. Not a massive bump, but any increase is certainly appreciated. Is 22 billion a lot? Yeah, for you and me. For the sake of comparison, the US military has a budget of about 680 billion, and they stay on the planet. Just to let you know, the latest budget for military is
715.
NASA's is
24.8.
To dig into these numbers even deeper, look at this graph. This is NASA's budget over the years. Basically, we had the big space race to the moon, and then we just didn't care anymore. We didn't have any competition, I guess, so why go back? The peak was 1965 at 4% of the federal budget. For the past 50 years, it has remained below 1% and mostly around 0.4%. Now, look at this graph to see NASA's budget compared to the rest of our spending as of 2019. What does it actually cost, though, to get to the moon? Certainly not more than $25 billion, right? I mean, that's a lot of money. In a report from 2005, this is a 17-year-old report, but that's fine. In that report, NASA estimated it would cost around $104 billion. Or 149 with inflation. So let me see if I can do the math on this one. 25 million minus, hang on, just give me a second, would you? 25 billion minus 149, there's negative $124 billion, so how exactly are we gonna make that happen when we still only use 45% of that 22 billion for human space flight? Well, it would be over something like 13-year plan or something, so we could potentially budget accordingly. It would be roughly $12 billion per year, so we would really need to pinch some pennies with this plan. To make it all even harder to plan each time we get a new president and lawmakers, those plans and budgets could change for the good or the bad. For example, Bush wanted us to go back to the moon, so NASA spent $9 billion over 5 years to design and test new hardware. Then, when Obama came into office and the Government Accountability Office said that NASA was unable to accurately estimate their costs, so they dropped everything and worked on the SLS rocket. Then, when Trump came in, he dropped Obama's goal of getting astronauts to an asteroid and focused on the moon and Mars. With actions like this, NASA has lost $20 billion in scrapped projects and countless hours of progress towards missions. The next problem with going to the moon is that it has 14 days of blistering boiling heat from the sun reaching 260 degrees Fahrenheit, and 14 days of total darkness where it drops to minus 280. And the final issue is you. That's right, you, the average citizen, just doesn't have much interest in landing on the moon anymore. Even back when Neil Armstrong just got back to Earth in 1969, only 53% of Americans said they thought the program was worth the cost. In 2018, that number was 57%, but even 38% of those that were for it thought it should include humans. The rest said robots were ideal. But if we switch gears to Mars, well, now that approval jumps to 63%. Not to mention that more kids today say they dream of being YouTube stars, not astronauts. Hi. But don't worry, despite everything we talked about, we still have plans to get humans back to the moon by 2024. It's considered a top priority, and we will have our first woman to ever step foot on the lunar surface. A huge benefit to getting back to the moon would be to use it as a launch pad for future missions to Mars and elsewhere. With its low gravity and no atmosphere, it would allow us to lift off without using much fuel. And before you say anything, yes, space exploration does benefit life on Earth, but that's going to have to be saved for another episode. But I promise it is always worth it. The medical industry, jobs, advancements in tech, it's all helpful. But while we wait to get back to the moon in 2024, be sure to watch this video to get a better understanding of how long it actually takes us to reach the moon and Mars and everything else within our solar system. And as always, thanks for watching, and what did you learn today?